Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we're going to be breaking down the 2025 RBC Heritage Golf Tournament. It is better known for being the week after the Masters, but we are still locked in like a CPA on April 14th for this golf tournament. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about the 2025 RBC Heritage, including why I love this course and event so much. In 30 minutes or less, we're going to tell you everything you need to know for DFS, betting, and one and done this week. So no matter what game you're playing, no matter what action you're getting this week, we're going to have you covered and tell you everything you need to know. Now, before we get started, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That way you can be with us for the rest of the PGA Tour season. We hope to have an episode tomorrow night where we talk about the alternate event, the Corrales Punta Cana Championship as well. So if you're subscribed, you will know when that drops. So don't start the timer just yet, though. I know we promised a preview in 30 minutes or less, and you might notice if you're starting this video on YouTube or if you're starting this podcast episode that it's a little bit longer than 30 minutes. There's a good reason for that, because first, we have to recap what was one of the wildest weekends of golf that I have ever seen, the 2025 Masters, right? And so let's go ahead and let's kind of do a full debrief of the Masters, full recap of the Masters before we get started on Harbour Town. So don't put the clock on me just yet. But once we get started with the Masters, we're going to tell you everything you need to know about the RBC Heritage in 30 minutes or less. If you want to just skip ahead to that, skip forward about 10, 15 minutes. The time codes are there, so you can skip to the preview of RBC if you want to. So the Masters, right? Let's kind of go from bottom to top. First, I was incredibly disappointed in the performance from golfers on LIV this week, right? You had Patrick Reed in third, you had Bryson DeChambeau in fifth, and Bubba Watson at 14th, Rahm in 14th, Hatton in 14th. But really, like, nobody from LIV other than Bryson ever actually seriously threatened to win this golf tournament. And a lot of the guys that LIV depends on to be great, like major in, major out, Jon Rahm, Joaquin Niemann, Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, they just didn't have it, right? And so really, I think my mentality moving forward, I think that Patrick Reed and Bubba Watson, I think you look at their performances, and those are two guys that could just wake up tomorrow and go to Augusta National and play good golf, right? Like, I think that those performances are exclusive to Augusta. I'm not going to be interested in playing them at the PGA Championship, US Open, or otherwise, but I really think that for the rest of the season, the only LIV golfers that I'm going to be rostering in DFS formats or betting to win are Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka. I think Brooks Koepka, really, he just had that one bad hole. And before hole 18 on Friday, if he made it to the weekend, he very easily could have ended up contending and playing well at this tournament. He's a guy that just shows up at the majors. He's also the king of the PGA Championship and the US Open. And the courses that they're at this week are kind of two standardized venues for those tournaments that I think that he should show up and play well at. And so I'm going to be back on Brooks Koepka for the majors. And I'm going to be back on Bryson DeChambeau. When you look at what Bryson did at this tournament, basically leading the field in around the green play while not being all that great on approach or off the tee, like, really, that's the antithesis of what Bryson does. And if Bryson is going to come with this short game to the PGA Championship and the US Open, he's going to really be able to use his driver and long iron skill to separate at those golf courses. And I think he's got a really good shot at winning those tournaments. But for the LIV guys that I'm fading, like Jon Rahm, I think it's time to stop considering him as a top 5 golfer in the world. I'll just say it. Like, I was back on him in DFS in this tournament. I played him in other formats. Like, he just didn't have it. And you can say what you want about, like, LIV. I'm not a hater of LIV. I enjoy watching LIV. I enjoy watching these guys when they're back for the majors. I just don't think that the format of LIV has prepared Jon Rahm to adequately perform in major championships. And that's evidenced itself now in 5 majors since he has been on LIV. He hasn't contended not once. And so I'm going to not be playing him for the foreseeable future until he can show me some form otherwise. And then Joaquin Niemann, I just think, is an unserious golfer. Like, as much as he wins on LIV, do it in a major, bro. Do it in a major. Like, he is yet to record a top 10 in a major, and his contemporaries on the PGA Tour, if you want to compare him to Ludwig Oberg, who came in with every bit his hype, slightly younger than Joaquin Niemann, he's played in 5 majors, and he's had 2 top 10s, and then another US Open where he was in the lead on Saturday. So Joaquin Niemann, do it in a major. Until he does it in a major, I'm not interested in playing him in DFS or any other format. And then also Sergio Garcia. This will be a great segue. Sergio Garcia was very popular in DFS this week as a LIV player, and he missed the cut at Augusta. I kind of saw that coming. He was one of the players that I strategically faded in DFS this week. And really, if I'm being honest, I don't regret it at all. That was when I got 100% right. He just has not been good at Augusta ever since his win. Doesn't matter the form he's coming in with. Doesn't matter that he's on LIV. He hasn't been good at Augusta since he won. And I thought that was a very easy fade and one that I got right as he missed the cut. And honestly, I think this week, whether you had a good week or bad week in DFS, it came down to how you handled the chalk this week. And Sergio Garcia was an example of bad chalk. Other examples of bad chalk, and these were two that I fell into, were Russell Henley and Steph Straka. I played a lot of both of those guys. I thought that their approach form would carry them, and they did enough on Friday to make me think that they might make the cut, and then proceeded to fold on hole 18 and miss the cut, right? So, a little bit disappointing that I did fall into those two guys. To me, success in DFS this week depended on fading the Strakas, Garcias, and Henleys of the world. And the good chalk to play would have been Corey Connors. That was one I was off of. He was a guy that I just did not get right. I did not play a whole lot of him. I wish I would have, because he ended up playing very well at this tournament. Another guy that I do want to talk about very specifically is Colin Morikawa. I full faded him in DFS, and I have no regrets for that, because pretty much everybody in the similar price range to Colin Morikawa outperformed him at this tournament. And really, like, looking at it, you could just look at the names at the top of the board, and who of those names has the worst skill fit at Augusta National? It's Colin Morikawa. He's not long off the tee. He's not known for being this like Augusta National course horse. He's not known for being this incredible shot shaper, slopey lies, magic short game kind of guy. And I just didn't think I don't think his skill is ever going to fit Augusta National. And I'm not going to be interested in playing him overpriced and over-owned at Augusta National at that cost. And that was one that I got like 100% right on. One that I did get kind of wrong, I was really all in on Shane Lowry this week. And if Lowry, until Sunday, it looked pretty good, right? It really did. But then he kind of just imploded on Sunday. I don't know whether he was looking at the leaderboard for his boy Rory or what, but, it just did not end up going well for Shane Lowry. So that was one that I got wrong. Now, kind of what we've all been waiting for, right? Rory McIlroy won the Masters, got his career Grand Slam. And I know I said on the podcast last week that I don't like betting golfers outright at super short odds. I could not resist temptation, and I wanted to say, hey, if Rory wins the Masters, I want to have a bet on it. And so I had a $5 bonus bet on DraftKings that I put on Rory McIlroy to win the golf tournament. I thought that was a pretty good use of a bonus bet. It turned out to be a really good use of a bonus bet because he won. And so I did get my outright ticket on Rory McIlroy to win the Masters. I was right on the show last week about calling Rory McIlroy to win this Masters. And I think at the end of the day, when we go back and we look at the Masters next year, remember what the handicap is for this tournament for the last 5 years. If you're the best player in the world who's won recently and is playing good golf with good history at Augusta, you're probably going to win the Masters. That's what happened to Rory this year. It's what happened with Scotty the year before, Rahm the year before that, and Dustin 2 years prior. If you're coming in with good form, you're one of the best players in the world, you've won recently, and you have decent history at Augusta, you're probably going to win the Masters. So next year, it's probably going to be Scotty. Might be Ludwig, might be Xander, depending on who ends up, being that next guy when we get to this time of the year next year. But don't forget that. That's kind of been the easiest handicap at Augusta, right? Now, it was a rocky road to get there, though, and an emotional road to get there, because Rory McIlroy did not make it easy. I don't know if I've ever seen a golfer in a round have as many holy crap, what a hero shot, and holy crap, he's about to choke this tournament shots in one round as Rory McIlroy. It was just an emotional roller coaster every single time. And for somebody like me who has a little bit of an emotional attachment to Rory McIlroy, it was exhilarating to watch, to say the least, right? And so one of my friends texted me, and he's like, hey, why do so many people our age like Rory McIlroy, right? And so here's the best comparison that I thought of, because this friend that texted me, he's a big Kobe fan. And I'm like, why do you like Kobe Bryant? And he said, well, when I first started watching basketball, Kobe was the next the next big thing. He was the best player, and I wanted to see him be my generation's Michael Jordan. And I'm like, that's exactly why so many people our age like Rory McIlroy. Because when we first started watching golf, Rory was the next big thing. He won that U.S. Open in 2011, and we were like, holy crap, he could be our generation's Tiger. And he hasn't quite gotten there to be our generation's Tiger, but he's won majors. He's been an all-time great. And this Masters was just kind of him getting over that hump that he'd been dealing with for 11 years of getting to this career Grand Slam, getting the monkey off his back and winning at Augusta. And so for so many people that are my age, it just really felt good to see Rory win this event. And I'm happy he won this event. And I'm very curious to see what his schedule is going to look like for the next month, because as you all are probably well aware, the PGA Championship is at one of his favorite golf courses at Quail Hollow. So is he going to go on a month-long celebratory tour? I don't know. Is he going to lock in and get ready to play at Quail Hollow, a course that he knows very well and has won a lot at? I don't know, but I'm super interested to see what the future holds now that he's got this monkey off of his back. And I'm going to be rooting for Rory for the rest of the year and hoping he can get multiple majors here in 2025. All right, so that does it for the Masters recap. We're going to talk about a few more guys as we go through the RBC Heritage preview because some of these guys are in the field. But let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to start talking Harbour Town. All right, so Harbour Town Golf Links is one of my favorite courses on the PGA Tour. I just think that A, it is just very aesthetically pleasing, but B, it is a golf course that I can really relate to because it is in Hilton Head Island, Florida. I'm sorry, Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Oh, almost messed that one up big time. Which is about 5 hours from my house. It is a place that my family has vacationed before. I have played a golf course on Hilton Head. It is not Harbour Town because Harbour Town is quite expensive, but it's a lot of the very similar vibes, right? By the way, Hilton Head, very expensive vacation spot. Like I was not aware of how expensive it was until as an adult, I looked into taking a trip there and realized, holy crap. Now I realize why my dad was so cheap all the time so that we could afford trips to Hilton Head. So anyway, RBC Heritage hosted at Harbour Town, which is on Hilton Head Island. It is a par 71. It is about 7,100 yards, which is one of the shortest golf courses on the PGA Tour. It is designed by Pete Dye. And what you'll notice with Harbour Town is that it features very narrow fairways with overhanging trees and a lot of dog legs. Why is this the case? Because simply put, on Hilton Head Island, there is not a whole lot of land. There's not a whole lot of property, right? So everything is very condensed. And to protect the homeowners and property owners alongside the course, the overhanging trees will tend to knock the ball down instead of having balls go through the trees. The one golf course that I played at Hilton Head Island is very much constructed in the same way. And if your driver was offline, it would literally just hit a tree and plop straight down, and you would be able to hit your second shot from there. There's not a whole lot of lost balls at this type of golf course. Now, what it means is that this is a golf course where you are going to have to keep the ball on line off the tee, right? But with as many dog legs and as short as a lot of these holes are, what ends up happening is a lot of golfers end up playing to very similar spots off the tee. This makes it as a golf course that is very, very difficult to separate yourself from the rest of the pack off the tee. Because if everybody's playing to the same spot, then you're not really getting an advantage because everybody's in the same spot that you are or a similar spot that you are, right? So off the tee play is very much mitigated at this course as long as you can keep it in play. And like I said, because of all the dog legs, because of all the layup zones, you're not hitting driver a whole lot. There's going to be a lot of layups, a lot of club downs off the tee. And so really this is just a golf course where if you're somebody who generally gains off the tee, you're not getting that part of your game this week. Like, so you're going to have to separate in other ways. And it is very easy to separate yourself on approach this week because the greens that you're hitting into are quite small. There's a very low greens in regulation percentage this week, generally speaking, at Harbour Town. And if you're able to hit a lot of greens with the greens being small, pretty much if you hit the green, you're going to have a makeable birdie putt because of the size of them. And what that also creates is that it creates a course where there's not a whole lot of bogeys, because even if you miss the green, as long as you're able to kind of, chip it decently to a small target, then you're going to have the ball in range to get up and down for par. So really the ways that you can separate yourself this week are by hitting more greens than everyone else and giving yourself more looks at birdie than everyone else, or hitting it closer to the pin than everyone else and giving yourself better looks at birdie, or the old-fashioned way, just making more birdie putts than everyone else. But you're not really going to be able to separate yourself off the tee this week. Your around the green play is going to be mitigated also, because if you're using your around the green play, it's because you missed the green and you want to hit greens here this week. Now, this is also a Pete Dye course, so with that comes a little bit of the quirks of a Pete Dye course. And there's a course near me that's about 15 minutes from my house that's a Pete Dye course that I love, but it's a bit of an acquired taste because, like I said, Pete Dye loves his dog legs. He loves these very intricate sight lines off the tee. He loves messing with your sight lines, and in general, playing to trouble off the tee will give you the best approach to the green, which is something to get used to because in general, you think of playing away from the trouble off the tee, right? And then Pete Dye also loves his small greens. He also loves his green side short grass areas and kind of the humps and the hollows around the green, which you can see a little bit of here as well. But with that being said, Harbour Town, just a very aesthetically pleasing golf course, beautiful to look at, but it's a very clear game plan. You're going to have to separate this week with your approach play and with your putting, not with your off the tee play or anything else. So for that reason, my key stats this week are number one, strokes gained approach. It's important every single week, but it's going to be really important this week. And also, as a quick aside, when this tournament tends to play with softer conditions when it rains the week prior or the week of. It tends to play much easier. That was the case last year. If this place dries up, which there's a good chance of it doing so this week, then it could play a little bit firm and fast. It could play a little bit more difficult. I think that's something to monitor as well. So strokes gained approach is super important. If you have the opportunity to look at proximity to the hole or opportunities gained, I think that is a great stat to look at this week. Proximity to the hole just measures how close are you hitting your approach shots. Opportunities gained measures, are you giving yourself makeable birdie putts more than the field? I am looking at around the green this week because I don't think it's super important. But if you do miss the green, which the green regulation percentage is pretty low, you are going to have to be able to get up and down. So you can't just be like a total nincompoop around the green. Even though if you remember this tournament from 4 years ago, Stuart Sink did bring out the Texas wedge all weekend and just putted from off the green, and it ended up working really, really well. But that's not a strategy that you see everybody do. And like I said, another way you can separate yourself at this course is by putting. And I'm going to be looking specifically at the POA overseed this week. We've talked about this a few times on the podcast. I think this might be the last week of the POA overseed, but Hilton Head Island is a climate where they've generally got Bermuda grass, but this time of year the Bermuda is still dormant or not grown all the way in, so they will overseed it with POA. And so that is the surface that we've seen quite a few times so far this spring, and we're seeing it again here this week. But more so than anything, this week, what I'm looking at more than recent performance, more than just like pure driving distance or anything like that of any of those measurables, I want to look at your performance on the short courses and your performance on comp courses, right? If you fit the archetype here at this place, then you could be able to play well here. And really, I'm kind of upset that they made this an elevated event, because this used to be a tournament that, because of its shortness, because of its mitigation of off the tee play, anybody could show up well and play well here. And you've seen some super long shots win this tournament. And they kind of took away that element by making it an elevated event. It is what it is, but I still think that this is a very fun golf course to watch the pros play. So that profile of playing well on the short courses, playing well on the comp courses will be something I'm looking at heavily. And those comp courses are all Pete Dye courses in general, because all of them feature a lot of the similarities of this place. And then pretty much your smorgasbord of short coastal courses, right? We got Wailea, the home of the Sony Open, Port Royal, home of the Bermuda Championship, Bermuda Championship. It's in Bermuda. I don't remember what the name of the tournament is right now off the top of my head. Sedgefield Country Club, home of the Wyndham. Not coastal, but very short, very much like one of these places. Sea Island, home of the RSM Classic, very much like this place. And then Colonial Country Club in Dallas, not coastal, but it is short. It does feature a lot of the same similarities in terms of laying up off the tee. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to dive down the rabbit hole. All right, so if you have been with us for a while, you know that when I refer to the rabbit hole, I'm not talking about an actual rabbit hole. I'm referring to the tool from Betsperts Golf called the rabbit hole that has all different kinds of filters and conditions that you can use to look at and isolate micro skills for golfers at certain golf courses that might be useful, as well as create a custom model with all those filters and conditions and really figure out who might end up being the best golfer at a particular course. It has helped me a ton this year, and I highly recommend it. Betsperts Golf has really done a great job with this tool. All right, so here's my custom model for this week and the stats that I used from the rabbit hole. So the first thing I want to do is get a general baseline of skill level. So I did look at strokes gained total for the last 36 rounds. The top 5, not really any surprise: Scheffler, Straka, Morikawa, Thomas, and Henley. I wanted to do the same thing with approach play, and the top in that regard: Morikawa, Spawn, Straka, Lowry, Thomas. Same thing with around the green play. And we have Michael Kim, Minwoo Lee, Christian Bezuidenhout, Andrew Novak, and Matt Kuchar. Kind of an eclectic list there. Then we start really looking at like the micro skills that we want to have, right? So I wanted to look at strokes gained off the tee on just club down courses, and who are the best golfers in that situation. So when you're off the tee and you don't have driver in your hand, who is good? Scotty Scheffler, Austin Eckroat, Sam Stevens, Keegan Bradley, Corey Connors. Then I wanted to, in the same situation, look at good drive percentage. Good drive is a way of kind of factoring in off the tee play and approach play. It basically measures if you hit the fairway or if you hit the green in regulation with your second shot. So basically, are you keeping it on the planet, which is something that's relevant here because these fairways are quite narrow. The rough itself is not very penal, but depending on the angle of the hole, you could end up underneath some trees. There's a lot of overhanging trees. So basically, good drive percentage is kind of a way of measuring like, hey, if you had a small miss, were you crafty enough to still find your way to the green? Top 5 in that regard: Russell Henley, Tommy Fleetwood, Lucas Glover, Austin Eckroat, Sepp Straka. When you look at strokes gained approach, I want to look at strokes gained approach on just small courses first. Short courses first. right? And so in that regard, best strokes gained approach players on short courses, we have got Scotty Scheffler, Tom Hoge, Shane Lowry, Sepp Straka, Xander Schauffele. Then when we switch it over to just small greens, because these are some of the smallest greens on the PGA Tour, some similar names, Scotty Scheffler, Tom Hoge, Justin Thomas, Tony Finau, Xander Schauffele as your top 5. Then I want to look at overall proximity on courses with small greens. Best in that regard, Lucas Glover, Bud Cauley, Russell Henley, Brian Campbell, and Justin Thomas. Then I wanted to look at strokes gained putting on just the POA overseeded grass. We've got McCarthy, Dietrich, Bhatia, Pendrith, and Thigala as your top 5. Now we start to get into the different course archetypes, right? And so the first thing that I wanted to look at was short courses in general. Who are the best at short golf courses? Scheffler, Thomas, Schauffele, Henley, Oberg. Wow, I really misspoke on Henley there. Henley and Oberg, your top 5. Then I wanted to look at strokes gained total on Pete Dye courses. We're the best in that regard. Scheffler, Schauffele, Thomas, Poston, Cantlay. Then when you look at all of the comp courses, right? All of the comp courses. I don't know why Patrick Cantlay didn't end up popping up here, but all the comp courses thrown in, we've got Sam Burns, Russell Henley, Justin Thomas, Billy Horschel, and Victor Hovland as your top 5. And then strokes gained total at Harbour Town only. We've got a top 5 of Cantlay, Fitzpatrick, Daniel Berger, Justin Thomas, Scotty Scheffler. Scotty Scheffler, the defending champ. Fitzpatrick, the champ here 2 years ago. Cantlay never wins here, but seems to always have a top 5 finish. So not shocked to see them come up in the top 5. When you throw all of that into a custom model, what it pops out is my number 1 golfer for this week. Should come as zero surprise. It is Scotty Scheffler. Now let's go ahead and talk about Scheffler right now. So I believe that this is a very good Scotty Scheffler course because this course is an execution test. Scotty Scheffler is great at execution tests because him and his caddy are very good at picking out, hey, we want to play to this spot. And I'm so accurate. I'm so precise. I'm going to get it to that spot. And then we're going to play to this spot. And it's just, procedural, right? He's very good at that type of environment. It's why he was able to win here last year, even though his off the tee play was mitigated a little bit by the lack of driver in his hand because Scotty Scheffler is both a long and accurate driver of the golf ball. But when you look at his profile, his ball striking has not been at the same historic levels that it was at in 2024. His around the green play and his putting have been really good. They've been a little bit hot and cold, but for the most part, they've been really good, better than what he was in 2024. So I think that the ball striking is eventually going to come back around. People forget that last year he did not win until the Arnold Palmer. He had played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was his 6th tournament of the year before he won, and then he started rattling off all the wins. Well, you look at what he's done so far this year. He has played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 events already. So he's not that far behind schedule if he wants to start winning because remember, he did not play the start this season. So I think it might just took him a little bit to heat up, but I think that the win is coming for Scotty Scheffler. Not shocked to see him show up as the number 1 golfer in my model. I do think he is by and away the most likely golfer to win this week. Number 2 is Justin Thomas, which I was a little surprised about. But his approach play over the calendar year has been really, really good. Excuse me. Sorry, I've been battling a cold. His approach play over the calendar year has been really, really good. But it just, I don't know, just something at the Masters just seemed a little bit off. I know he had a different caddy than usual. I don't know if that played any into it at all. But he did not gain strokes on approach at the Masters. And to me, that's a little bit worrying. What is good news, though, is that he has been at his best this year on the POA Trivialis greens. He has been at his best this year on shorter golf courses. He has been at his best this year on easier than average golf courses. So everything lines up for this being a good archetypal course for Justin Thomas. And maybe if I hadn't just seen the Masters, maybe would I be really willing to go all in on him after seeing him come runner-up at the Valspar, a tournament that he probably should have won? Probably. So to me, that kind of just, that's the stats telling me something differently than my eyes are, right? The stats are telling me that Justin Thomas is in line to have a great week. My eyes, from what I saw at the Masters, are not. But hey, maybe it is some sort of kind of otherworldly thing at Augusta because he has not been good there the last 3 years. So maybe I should listen to the stats here. Maybe I should roll out Justin Thomas this week. 3 and 4 in my model are 2 guys that I think are great archetypal course fits, Russell Henley and Sepp Straka. Both of them killed me at the Masters. We went over that earlier, but both of them are great at short golf courses. They're really good on approach, and they really line up well here, right? Like they're accurate drivers of the golf ball. They're not super long, so that is mitigated here, but they're really good on approach. They were really good at my comp courses, and I really do think that this is a good spot for both of them. Not shocked at all to see them come up 3 and 4 in my model. Colin Morikawa is kind of the same boat, number 5. I faded him last week, and y'all, don't call me crazy. I might fade him again here this week. This seems like a course that he should play really well at, right? It really does. But he's not a good putter on the POA overseeded greens. He generally never has been. He's generally at his best at not super short golf courses for whatever reason. And you look at his history here, he was runner up here in 2020. I'm sorry, not runner up. He was T7 here in 2021, got outclassed by Stuart Sink. He has never really putted the ball well here, and he's never really been like just had it all going in all elements of his game here, right? So I don't know. Ninth here last year, that's going to have a lot of people on him. And his play so far this calendar year is going to have a lot of people on him. But I don't know. I think he might be a strategic fade this week. I kind of think it's a little bit of fool's gold. I really think this week I want somebody who's able to work the ball both ways off the tee, play a draw and a fade. And because of all the dog legs, right? And Colin's a guy that doesn't do that. He only plays a fade. Brian Harman is number 6 in my model. Great course fit. I'm not going to be playing him just because I don't want to encourage Brian Harman being on my television doing a waggle for 47 seconds before he hits a golf ball. Corey Connors is number 7. Tommy Fleetwood, number 8. Shane Lowry, number 9. And Xander Schauffele, number 10. I'll go ahead and talk about all 4 of these guys kind of together. The only one of these guys that I'm going to be playing this week is Xander Schauffele, mainly because I'm not really into playing guys like after a long, grueling week at the Masters. A, I think Shane Lowry is going to be out drinking a lot of Guinness with Rory McIlroy. B, I think Corey Connors is a little bit spent. We could kind of tell on Sunday when he kind of faded a little bit at Augusta, even though this is a great course for him. Tommy Fleetwood, I think, is at his best at longer, more difficult golf courses, of which this is not that. So I don't think this is a good spot for him at all. All right. Now, that is just the top 10 of my model right now as it stands, but this is something that I do tinker with all week. And so if you would like to see the final top 10 for my model, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks. I give a full article, full write-up with my core plays on DraftKings and FanDuel and my model top 10, as well as why every single week. And if you are interested in that, the Patreon is the place that you can check that out. Also, if you do want more information from me, follow me on Twitter at MikesMoneyPicks and join the Fantasy Corner Discord. Link is in the description for that. Fantasy Corner Discord is a community of a bunch of DFS players for a lot of different sports that are always in there chopping it up, talking lineups, talking plays, and we've got every sport covered in there, not just golf. But it is very DFS oriented. I'll tell you that much as well. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to take a look at the board for the week. All right, so it should come as no surprise. He was number 1 in my model. Scotty Scheffler is at the top of the betting boards and the DraftKings boards this week. Look, y'all know my thoughts on betting guys at short odds to win a golf tournament. I don't do it. I'm not going to be betting Scotty outright to win, but I'm going to be playing him heavy in daily fantasy. And the reason why is this. So when you look back at DFS, this is going to be a very DFS game theory conversation for about a minute here. So when you look back at last year in DFS, all the elevated events that Scotty won, right, which he won most of them, they were all events where if you played a stars and scrubs type of lineup, you probably did really well as long as you had Scotty and then another guy that did pretty well near the top, and then the right value plays near the top, right? Like think back to the Travelers Championship when Tom Kim went to a playoff against him. If you had Scotty and Tom Kim, there was a lot of combinations you could have built your lineup with that and gone from there, right? Now, this year so far in elevated events, balance builds have been the key, right? Guy not playing the Scotties and the Rorys out there. Well, I mean, Rory at the players, but like, not going out and, well, I think the players is a little bit different because it's a full field. So maybe that was a poor example, but not playing the Scotties and the Rorys of the world at these limited field events because they haven't won them. Rory won the players, but he hasn't won one of the smaller signature events. Actually, he won Pebble Beach. Maybe bad example, but just stick with me here, y'all. I'm tangenting myself because I'm getting things wrong. The limited field events this year, balance builds have come through, right? Because of the fact that Scotty hasn't been winning. If Scotty starts winning, then the stars and scrubs build's going to work, and it's going to be worth it to play Scotty. And one of my entire working premises all season long has been that the next little tier of golfer, the Ludwig, Colin, Xander, JT, Cantlay tier, doesn't win golf tournaments. They haven't. Well, Ludwig won one, but they haven't other than that, right? And so I am not going to indulge this tier a whole lot, and I'm just going to play Scotty, right? And I'm going to have faith that Scotty is going to be the winner and that none of that next little tier will, and that I'll be able to build my lineups off of that with a stars and scrubs approach with Scotty and somebody from the 8 or 9K range, and then some value plays off of that. Because this is also a tournament where, because of the mitigation of distance off the tee, because of the features that what makes a lot of the best players in the world, is their power and accuracy off the tee, along with their long iron play and their short game. Those are all things that are mitigated this week. So the lesser players are going to have equal standing this week to the big dogs. And so I think this is a good week to go down to the bottom of the board. And so you can play Scotty and even someone else higher priced, and find some guys at the bottom of the board to fill out your lineup with, right? So like I said, my entire working premise is that middle tier, that little second tier does not win a whole lot, right? So I'm probably going to be fading Ludwig, probably going to be fading Colin, probably going to be fading Xander. My model, like Thomas, I think he's going to be the lowest owned of that group. I'm going to be on him. Patrick Cantlay, great history here. T3, third, and second in the last 3 appearances. I'm going to be on him. Those are going to be the 2 guys in that tier that I'm going to play. We've already mentioned that in that 9K range, I love Henley. I'm probably not going to be on anybody else. Jason Day, great run at the Masters, but sorry, I'm not going to be on you here. Victor Hovland, you still don't have faith in your own golf game, so I'm not going to have faith in your golf game. Sorry, bud. Another guy that I'm going to like in the 8K range is Sepp Straka. I also really like this course for Daniel Berger. Daniel Berger at his best at short golf courses. Daniel Berger, good history here. 3rd, 13th, and 21st in his last 3 appearances. Pretty much it seems to consistently come between 15th and 30th of every golf tournament that he plays. Very safe golfer, gaining strokes in a lot of different categories, right? Now, a guy that I will fade in the 8K range is a guy I'm not high on at all. I've heard people hype him up already this week, is Sungjae Im. So here's the big reason why. When you think of Sungjae and when he was playing well, what Sungjae was doing well was his approach play, right? And recently, his approach play has been very poor. Even as good as he was at the Masters, he still lost strokes on approach. He just chipped in from everywhere and made a lot of bomb putts, right? So that now makes 4 straight events where he's lost strokes on approach. That is not a good formula here. And people are going to look and see that T5 at the Masters and go back to Sungjae. I am not. So I'm going to be fading him at 8,700. Another few guys that I'm going to fade here in this range. I'm going to be fading Justin Rose because of I just think that he had a long growing week at a major championship, and he really only wants to win major championships right now. But also, I'm very skeptical of Minwoo Lee, Wyndham Clark, and Robert McIntyre. All 3 of these guys are all guys who excel with a driver in their hand, are able to gain a lot of strokes off the tee more often than not. And so I'm really just going to kind of not go to them for that reason. Wyndham Clark played very well here last year, but that was a very soft golf course. I think I've got a working theory that you just play Wyndham Clark on soft golf courses. If you see rain in the forecast, but not during the tournament, play Wyndham Clark, right? The same thing happened at Houston where it rained like Thursday, I believe. He ended up coming in 5th last year, this tournament T3, right? Like just play Wyndham Clark at soft golf courses, but I don't think this is going to be that. So I'm going to be fading him. I do think this is a very good spot for Aaron Rai. I think this is a prime spot for Aaron Rai. He is at his best at shorter golf courses. He is at his best putting on the POA overseeded greens. He is at his best at this type of course, literally. So I think this is a perfect spot to go to him, right? His profile has a whole lot of green in it. And I just really think that this is the type of spot you want to be on him at. Last year, he won at a short positional golf course at the Wyndham. I just think this is a great spot for Aaron Rai. And I think that at a course that emphasizes approach play, that's kind of the exact spot you're going to want him at. Has he played this event before? T48 in 2023. That's not great, but not terrible. I am going to be in on Aaron Rai this week. I also, I mentioned him last week, and he ended up not hurting me a whole lot. Wasn't great. 29th at the Masters. Denny McCarthy. So Denny McCarthy is one of the best putters of the golf ball in the world. And anytime you have a marketable skill like that is going to come into play quite a bit, you got my interest, right? Because there's a chance he could just putt his way to a win. Because this is a course that's going to largely mitigate off the tee play, which is the worst part of his game. And he's been playing pretty well on approach lately. So if he's able to, put the ball on the green and sink a lot of putts, that would be something that he could have a path to winning this golf tournament. Now, we've got a few other short course kings in the 7K range that I do think are going to be popular. JJ Spawn, JT Poston, and Keegan Bradley, as well as Brian Harmon. And I think the Aaron Rai is going to be very popular as well. So who could be guys in DFS or outright bets that people aren't making that we could be on, right? I think Akshay Bhatia, I think this is a great week for him. Akshay is very much kind of like this positional golfer, right? He excels at putting on the POA overseed. He excels at accuracy off the tee. And he's very much leveled up his putter this year. And he's always been a solid around the green player. So I am going to be in on Akshay. I think this is a really good spot for him. His approach play can be hit or miss, but when it hits, you get really good finishes, like his pair of T9s earlier this year, like when he won last year at the Valero Texas Open. So I'm going to be on Akshay at 7,700. I also think the Siwoo Kim is a sneaky play at 7,600. So if you're looking at recent form, Siwoo Kim is not the guy to go by. He's missed 2 straight cuts which is not optimal, but it's been largely because of the putter. And Siwoo Kim is a guy that runs super hot and cold with the putter. He is also a guy that, when you look at his overall profile, he wins at short positional golf courses. He has a win at the Sony Open. He has a win at Sedgefield. He has a win at the American Express PGA West. Is there another one that I can think of? I think that's it. No, TPC Sawgrass. He won the Players Championship. So he is the king of short and positional golf courses and Pete Dye golf courses. So 7,600, you're not getting good recent form, but you are getting decent course history with great course archetype. Now, Bud Cauley is a guy that I do anticipate to be super popular this week because he's playing some really good golf, just really consistent. I think he's a guy that I would be more interested in playing as like a top 20 or a top 10 bet this week, as opposed to playing in DFS, because I think he's going to be super popular in DFS. I would rather take my chances against a sports book as opposed to against peer-to-peer for Bud Cauley, because I do think he is going to be super popular, and I would rather not play a whole lot of chalk in DFS if I'm already going to be playing Scotty Scheffler, which is going to lead me to being a little bit of a chalky build. Now, Sahith Theegala, I actually really like this week too. He was runner-up here last year to Scheffler, but was never really in contention of winning. At the Masters, he was actually really good on approach, which is a good sign because he had lost approach 5 tournaments straight. And when Sahith Theegala gains on approach, he's got a good short game. He's got a good putter. His off the tee play is not particularly great, but that's going to be mitigated here, right? So I really do think this could be a really good spot for Sahith. I like what I saw him at the Masters, and I like what I see with that course history. Like I said, runner up here last year, T5 the year before that. All right, going down the board after that, you've got a lot of really talented guys in the low 7K range that do you want to be early on, right? Like Matt Fitzpatrick has a win here, made the cut at Augusta. Tony Finau, super talented. Sam Burns, super talented. Will Zalatoris, super talented, right? Of all those guys, I think Sam Burns would be the guy that I would want to go with. So the thing is with Sam Burns is he does have wins at these short positional golf courses, right? He won at Colonial. He's won at Innisbrook. We like to play Sam Burns when his irons get hot, though, and his irons are not hot right now, and they were not good at Augusta last week. So that has me a little bit concerned, but his level of performance at this type of golf course and his history here, which includes a 9th and a 15th place finish, has me thinking that I might get a little bit of exposure to Sam Burns at DFS. I think he's a decent top 10 bet because I think it would be super long odds. And I think that if he does find it this week, then he does have the upside to do that. He's one of the best putters of the golf ball in this field as well. Now, looking at the 6K range, this is where you can really get greasy this week because I think there's a lot of guys in this range you can play. One guy I will not be playing is Ryan Gerard. So everybody's going to look and see the 2nd and the 9th recently. But this is a guy who generally has good ball striking skills, and they were not in play in those 2 tournaments. Like, it was all chipping and putting. And I'm not inclined to play somebody whose ball striking skills are on the downturn heading into this event. So I'm not going to be partaking. Now, a guy that I really like a lot is Eric Cole. So he's another guy that's coming in with like sketchy recent form, I guess I could say, 12th, 15th, and 26th, but they've all been at courses that I don't really associate with being good for Eric Cole's game. Eric Cole is at his best at short golf courses, at courses where off the tee play does not matter. And this is a course that would pretty much play into that. And I think this could be a really good Eric Cole spot. Austin Eckroat is another guy kind of that same archetype as Eric Cole that is coming in with worse recent form. He's missed his last 2 cuts, but he was 17th here last year. I think he could very well be a guy that shows up here and plays well because he is another one like Eric Cole that is at his best at these club down short golf courses. Now, another thing, I do think you can go all the way down to $6,000 this week because you've got Matt Kuchar, who has a ton of course history here and has played very well at this golf course. You've also got Brian Campbell, who is literally the shortest hitter on the PGA Tour, and literally there will not be a course that will mitigate that skill more than Harbour Town. So if you want to kind of take your shot and just play it based off the course stats, then Brian Campbell could be a guy you could go with. My favorite play in the 6K range, though, and he's probably going to be one of my favorite plays all week, is Ryo Hisatsune. So Ryo Hisatsune is a guy that is coming in with really good form. 4th at the Valspar, 5th at the Valero, green in every category in both of those events. He was also T10 in Mexico, and dating back to last year, listen to some of these short course finishes. T17 at the RSM Classic, T3 at the Wyndham, and then T11 at the American Express, T30 at the Sony. So this is a guy who has played historically well at short golf courses. This is a guy whose approach play is trending in the right form. He's not necessarily been great or has a large sample size of playing in elevated events, but this is the type of course that a guy like him could show up at and end up playing well at as an elevated event. All right, let's take a quick breather, and then we're going to talk one and done. All right, let's close this thing out by talking one and done. So, pretty much last week was a huge swing and a miss for me in one and done. I went with the strategy of playing a live golfer, and I didn't pick Patrick Reed. I got a miscut out of Cam Smith and a T12 out of John Rahm. So just not a great weekend, one and done for me. I need to start finding some winners, right? I had Min Woo Lee a few weeks ago. I need to find a winner here this week. My preliminary pick here was Sahith Theegala. I think that's not a bad selection still. I do think that you could get somebody further up the odds board, though. Basically, I think this is a week where you need to start planning out your elevated events, right? Like I have already used Scotty in this one that I'm picking here. But if you have not used Scotty yet, you're probably thinking about using him at the PGA or the US Open, which I think there's better course fits out there than him. I think Bryson would be a good pick. I think Brooks would be a good pick for that. Rory would be a good pick for that, right? Ludwig, Xander would both be great picks for those. So if you're not going to use them at one of those two, there's the Memorial and the Travelers that are elevated events that are left on the calendar. He won both of those last year. So I think this is a great week to save Scotty, even though theoretically you're probably never going to get a better tournament where he has better odds this week being at 3.5 to 1, right? So this is not a bad week to use Scotty if you got him, but you need to start planning out, hey, if I'm not going to use Scotty here this week, then I need to plan out how I'm going to use him at the Memorial or at the Travelers. And may I suggest, if you're not using him at the Memorial, Colin Morikawa and Patrick Cantlay have great course history there. If you're not using him at the Travelers, Xander Schauffele has won that event. Brian Harmon has been very good at the Travelers. So like there's other options at those events. If you do want to play Scotty here, I'm just saying that you need to start planning it out because you need to make sure that you get the best finish possible out of Scotty. As you can see, I played him at the Players and I got a T20. So I did not use my Scotty week in a very wise decision in this particular one and done. Now, as I said earlier, I do think that this on paper sets up for a good golf course for Colin Morikawa. I'm probably off of him, though. I don't think this is a great spot for him. I don't think this is a great spot for Ludwig at all. Xander, I'm going to let him heat up a little bit as he's, kind of still rounding into form off of his injury. I think if you have JT left, I think this is a really good spot because I don't think that there's anywhere left on the schedule naturally to play JT. He's kind of at his best at some of those Florida courses. And maybe you could play him at the PGA at Quill Hollow, but I think you have the live options there. I think that this is probably not the best way to deploy him. Cantlay, I think this is a great spot for if you have him. If you have Cantlay left, you either need to use him here at this tournament or at the Memorial, point blank. Like if you haven't used Cantlay through the California swing or the Florida swing, you have the Memorial and you have this golf tournament. You need to use him in one of those two. So like I said, this is where you need to start planning those out. You don't want to leave yourself with a ton of golfers left at the end. In this particular one and done, I believe I'm going to go with Russell Henley because I think that this is a great Russell Henley golf course. With it being one of the shorter positional golf courses, I think that he's still coming in pretty good form, even though he did miss the cut at the Masters. And most of the league that I'm in already has used him. And that's a great way to utilize a guy is when their availability gets low and you still have him to go ahead and you fire him up in one and done. And let's hope that he ends up pulling through with a win this week. Although the only thing that would kind of give me pause is like, is Russell Henley a guy that's going to win 2 elevated events in the span of 2 months? Maybe not. So I don't know. I might reconsider. I got other options. I could go with Seb Straka. I could go all the way down to my guy Sahith Theegala in my preliminary selection if I wanted to. We'll see. I'll continue to think about it. Right now, I'm going to set it to Russell Henley, though. But anyway, that is going to do it here for this episode, y'all. In 30 minutes or less, when you don't count the Masters recap, we told you everything you need to know about the RBC Heritage 2025, the golf course itself, Harbour Town, the data from the rabbit hole, and looking at the board in DFS and betting and who we could utilize in different spots this week. That's going to do it for this episode, y'all. If you like what you saw in this YouTube video, please hit the like button. It helps me out a ton. If you're listening on audio, please rate and review. Again, helps me out a ton. I cannot stress enough how much I appreciate it. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That way you can be with us for the rest of the PGA Tour season. But that's going to do it here for this episode, y'all. Best of luck to you guys at the RBC Heritage. Remember, tune in tomorrow night for the Corrales Punta Cana preview for the alternate event this week. But if you're subscribed, you'll know when that drops. But that's going to do it, y'all. Best of luck to you guys this week. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.